I've got the woe begone, down low Mifwump Blues. But grandfather's garden is the cure for the Mifwump Blues.
Hi everyone, it's Brie, and I'm back for our final episode of Grandfather's Garden. So I have a couple of shares for you this afternoon. One of them is Phyllis the Talking Pillbox. And again, the stories are by David Loye. The illustrations are by A. Christopher Simon. So let's begin. Here's the amazing illustration for today's story. So adorable. Once upon a time, there was a pillbox named Phyllis. No one could remember when Phyllis started talking so much. Seemed like she had been talking for as far back as any of the toys lived. For Phyllis the pillbox had been retired from duty as a pillbox and was now one of numerous strange household objects that had drifted into the children's room and wound up being used by the children as building blocks and for other uses. There was an old battered green saucepan that they used sometimes as a house and other times as a boat. There was an old brown cookie tin that was a little warped that they used to make thunder and rain sounds. Whenever you tried to bend it straight, it would make these lovely sounds like thunder when they wanted to pretend it was raining. There was an old egg beater with a crank on the side that they used in the bathtub, pretending it was the motor on their motorboat. But back to Phyllis, the talking pillbox. Sometimes they would pop open her lid and put pennies inside her, but Phyllis would say, "Oh, they are too heavy. Please don't put pennies in my tummy." So they would take them out. Sometimes they would pop open her lid and put feathers inside her, but Phyllis would giggle and say, "Oh, these feathers tickle too much. Please don't put feathers in my tummy." So they would take them out. Most of the time, they just listened to Phyllis or didn't listen to Phyllis, for she could go on talking for hours. She talked a lot about Idaho. When they didn't listen, it was pleasant just to have her chattering away there on the shelf, for this made the children feel they were never alone. One could also depend on Phyllis to be their friend. Well, one day a little man came down the street with a monkey. He was an old-fashioned organ grinder, like you hear about in stories but never see anymore. He was looking for Phyllis. As he went down the street, he would call up to the people in the houses or to open windows where somebody might be inside to hear him. "Hello there! Hello there!" he would call up, and the children heard him. "Hello there!" he called up to everybody. "Has anybody up there seen my pillbox?" So they wondered what to do. Was Phyllis the pillbox he was looking for? Should they stick their heads out the window and tell him about Phyllis? What if he was just trying to get stuff from people? It was quite a dilemma. They looked around the room, but neither the battered green saucepan or the brown warped cookie tin were any help, for they couldn't talk. So what they did, you see, the sun was coming up and it was Thursday, but the storyteller had fallen asleep and started to snore. And so, open-ended, the story spun on and on to reach beyond the moon and the stars. A moral for the story: if you want to finish anything, don't fall asleep before it gets done. And now for the epilogue, which is called Call the Mifwump. Jumping Josephat, heavens to Betsy, holy cow! Or shut my mouth and call me another one of Grandfather's quaint old exclamations. For just as I thought I'd finished this book, the door blew open and I discovered the Mifwump wasn't just a story in this book. It was real. There it was, the all-seeing, all-knowing, all-powerful Mifwump, hopping mad and ready to lead a revolution. The way you people in the real world are loading up with awful problems, and his voice shook the walls and rattled the windows. We just can't take it anymore. It's time for the best of us in Storyland to break out into your world to save you with Mifwump power. And what is this? As I've learned to use Mifwump power in my own case, I've found that whenever I'm down in the dumps, fearful, apprehensive, anxious, or even reduced to despair, I just pick up this book and go back and reread one or more of Grandfather's stories. No matter how awful something seems, up comes a chortle, then another, and then the great laugh that takes me out of my troubles into the playful wonder of Grandfather's garden. I think you're on to something, I told the Mifwump, but how can you get what seems to work for me out there to other people who need Mifwump power to help them keep going, even in the worst of times? Thereafter, out of the Mifwump emerged the gripping story of adventures as astounding as any of those Grandfather told us on those enchanted nights by the fire. The first tale, as I recall, was about how the Mifwump and Flippo the Dippo left Storyland to launch a revolution of joy versus gloom in the real world. For the inside story, step by step, use Mifwump as the search word for Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and other portals for the internet. Help bop gloom and spread joy to the world. Kids, teens, mums, and dads, join up and tell your friends and their friends and their friends' friends. Help the Mifwumpians make new friends to spread the laugh of joy versus gloom all the way around the world, on back to wherever you are. The end. So thank you for joining me for this joyous compilation of stories. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Happy solstice.
I've got the woe begone, down low Mifwump Blues. But Grandfather's garden is the cure for the Mifwump Blues.